Trust has been mentioned many, many, many times and kind of continued with that. Am I correct if I'm looking with the next speaker? Polarization, mistrust, news avoidance, TikToks, etc., 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 which brings us to the trust again. How can solutions journalism deepen connections with audiences and support local communities? This is the next subject. Bienvenue, Madame Sophie Roland.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much first to CIRCOMRegional for inviting me today. I'm very happy and honored to be here. So I'm a French journalist working on investigations and solutions for a media called VERT le Média. It's a newsletter and a website too. But before that, I spent many years in public broadcasting at France Télévisions. And today, I train many newsrooms on solution journalism, and I do some solution training also at CIRCOM. So across Europe, I met journalists who deeply, deeply believe in public service journalism. But I also met audiences who are exhausted. Exhausted by permanent breaking news, exhausted by conflict, exhausted by powerless. And I think, and honestly, many journalists are exhausted too. I'm sure some of you are in this room. But audiences increasingly ask another question. Can you also help us understand what is still possible? And that is the question I want to explore with you today. How can solution journalism deepen connections with audiences and support local communities? But before talking about solution journalism, we first need to understand the scale of this disconnection. Today, the connection between media and audiences is breaking down. We all know that. Polarization, we just talked about it, mistrust, news avoidance are very reshaping this relation between audiences and journalism across Europe. Audiences are exhausted, and according to Reuters Institute, I'm sure you know the figures, across 48 countries, the digital news report from Reuters Institute tell us that 40% of people say they sometimes often avoid the news. In 2017, the figure was 29%. Today, it is the highest level ever recorded. News avoidance is particularly high in countries like Bulgaria, Turkey, Croatia, and Greece. It's still lower in other countries, but the trend exists everywhere. And when we ask people why they avoid the news, the answer is consistent. 39% says the news can negatively affect the mood. 31% feel overwhelmed by the amount of news. 30% are exhausted by conflict and war. And many say, there's nothing I can do with your information. I think this reveals something very important, that we have become extremely good at documenting the problems, but many audiences increasingly feel disconnected from the news. And maybe this is the limit, one of the limits of journalism culture built almost everywhere, entirely around breaking news. So the real question is, why do audiences actually expect from journalism today? And we have an answer. The answer is that they want more connection. Oh, sorry, the way around. That's better. Audiences tell us something more nuanced. Thanks to the Reuters Institute report, we have a clear picture of what people expect from us. They still want information. 72% says we want to stay informed about what is happening in the world. Good. But they also want more than headlines. 67% want news that helps them better understand events and issues. 60% would like more value, practical and useful information for everyday life. And more than half say they appreciate news that gives them a sense of hope. In other words, audiences do not expect only journalism to inform them. They expect to explain. They also expect us to guide, connect, and even inspire. And this is, I think, very important shift for us all working in the media. And that expectations, this way better. The expectations are closely connected to the user's need model. Maybe some of you know in the room have already heard about that. It was developed by BBC in 2017 by Dimitri Shishkin. The idea behind this model is very simple. People do not consume news only to stay informed. They also use journalism to satisfy deeper cognitive, emotional, and practical needs. According to this framework, audiences want journalism to help them know, stay informed first, understand, gain context and different perspective, feel, experience emotion, inspiration, or even entertainment, and do. Find practical value and feel connected to others. And for me, the most interesting part is probably the last one, do. Because traditionally, journalism has been very good at informing people, but audiences say something else. How does this affect my life? What can be done? And how people can reconnect with each other. And I think this is where solution journalism becomes particularly interesting for us. But is it a turning point? Is solution journalism a turning point? I believe yes. Because solution journalism does not ignore problems. It starts with the problems, but instead of stopping there, it asks what is being done about them. In other words, it does not replace traditional journalism. It completes the story we're doing daily. So it means that we change a little the script. The editorial script of today is traditional problem-focused journalism that often asks, what's wrong? Who's responsible? What happened? Why nobody fixing this? And the solution story is more, what is being done? Who is doing something? Is it working? Does it have an impact? Let me give you an example. If there is a major international crisis, for example, a conflict in the Middle East or rising energy prices, local media will naturally document the impact. That's our job. Food prices, inflation, economic pressure, public anxiety. But solution journalism asks an additional questions. Are communities changing, adapting to that? Are people changing transportation habits? Are cities investigating, investing in the alternatives? What policies actually help reduce dependency on fossil fuels? This is not a positive story. They are deeper stories about adaptation, resilience, and public response. So it's a different way of seeing the news, but it's more complete to see the news that way, maybe. But we have to understand why and what is solution journalism, and that's very important that we share the same definition. Let me give you the definition that we have at Solution Journalism Network. Solution Journalism Network is a non-profit based in the US, founded in 2013 by 2 journalists from the New York Times. And they train people like me, so we are 200 certified trainers all over the world, sharing the same tool as what is solution journalism. And the definition is this following. It's rigorous, evidence-based reporting of responses to social problems. And I think there are 2 very big words in this. Rigorous, evidence-based, basic of journalism. And to make sure the stories remain rigorous and balanced, the methodology relies on 4 pillars. How are my solutions working? Number 1, what is being done? How does it work? Second, evidence. Do we have proof of measurable measures that can measure the result of my solution? Is there any evidence? Third, insight. What can other people or communities learn from this? And last but not the least, limitations. Because there are always weaknesses in the solutions. There is no perfect solutions. So this is very important to have those 4 criteria in mind when we want to do a balanced solution story. Because in fact, solution journalism is not presenting perfect success story. That's not the idea. It's not good news. It's not PR. It's not marketing. It's really examining responses with the same rigor as we do in journalism, in traditional journalism, in investigations. And they are very, for me, in my practice of solution journalism daily, very a useful toolbox. So ultimately, you see that solution journalism is not about making news positive. The idea is making journalism more complete. So, newsrooms are already doing it. Yes, and that's the good news. And the good news is even more better. It works. So I want to share you some examples that I have seen during my trainings or in my work. My first example comes from Ukraine. We already talked about Ukraine example with a great example from Ala Sorix this morning. This is another one that I really love too. It's an independent media outlet called Rubrika. Maybe some of you know it. It was founded in 2018 by Anastasia Rudenko. She once said something very powerful about solution journalism during war. We are not just documenting war, we are shaping what comes after. We may not carry weapons, but we carry stories, and they heal and save lives. I think this quote says a lot about our role as journalists today. And Rubrika was created well before the full-scale invasion. But its mission became even more important during the war, helping people see practical responses, civic resilience, and see communities that are not waiting passively for change, but actively creating. So journalism can become central, and it became central in Rubrika. They produce in-depth reporting, short solution story, explainers, Instagram format, reels, and the audience responds very remarkably. In fact, readers often tell to Anastasia, "Thank you, your journalism helps us, do not feel hopeless." And this is very important, that during war, solution journalism is not about optimism, it's about helping people understand what can still be done, who is really acting, and how communities adapt to such a situation. And so today, Rubrika has 4 journalists full-time, approximately 10 freelancers. It reaches around 2 million users per month. Of course, well, like many independent media, they suffer from a major economic challenge and looking constantly for more money, but they are fighting, and until now, it works. So you see that solution journalism is not a luxury for peaceful times. Even in the middle of a war, audiences still need journalism that helps them see possibly resilience and collective response. Another example that I like, coming from the neighbor, the channel SVT. I know there are some journalists here from SVT in the room, right? I met you yesterday night. So across its 21 local rooms, SVT encourage journalists to regularly produce solution-oriented stories. In Holland, the local editor, Malen Sierstad, explained something important to me. I had the chance to meet her during one of my training at CIRCOM. And she said, we see the numbers and talk to the audience. And we see clearly that the audiences appreciate our solution story, especially younger audiences, where news fatigue is very high. And what I found fascinating in the example she gave me is that it's not treated like a side project. Solution journalism is really in the daily work of the newsroom. Like every Monday morning, during editorial meeting, journalists are asking not only to look what's the problem they will cover, but also what responses to the problem they're covering. And I think it's very interesting that solution journalism can become, like the example of SVT, part of everyday newsroom culture. And this year, the newsroom even received an award for the best constructive news story. So congrats to you guys. And SVT continues experimenting with the new formats ahead of the Swedish general election, which is very interesting too, because at the time of the political, polarization, they are trying to create journalism that informs, but also reconnect audiences with democratic debate. Another example that I like, let's go to the UK. This is BBC South Today, and this is John Cuttill. I met John in my CIRCOM training too. And this is interesting because he told me that And he showed us during the training a very example of what he is doing once or twice a year. He literally, what he told me, hijack the evening news program for a full solution-focused special. Entire editions, imagine, dedicated to climate and environmental response. Last week, they produced a special program on air pollution, not only documenting the problem, but also investigating possible solution. Let's see a little extract of this video.
Hello and welcome to this evening's South Today, a slightly different South Today, because tonight we're looking at air quality. Air pollution is the single biggest environmental hazard to human health. So tonight we're going to take a bird's eye view at pollution across the South, looking at the problems but also trying to find the solutions. Should we do it?
It may look clear, but the air all around us is full of tiny particles, particulate matter, or PM. You may have heard of PM10 and PM2.5. The number refers to the size of the particles.
So here it is, and it's going like this during 20 minutes. Imagine you're doing your evening news, you see your anchor paradiling. Maybe not your anchors will be ready to do that, right? But I think this is amazing to try to do something else and to say, hey guys, we're going to talk about the big problem we're all facing, but not only that, we're also going to talk about the solution that we have. So they did that already. It's been like 30 years, and it's working. I mean, the audience says, oh, we like it, we love it. They followed. He received so many emails telling, oh yeah, the news were good yesterday night. It was different, but it was interesting for me. So they talk about the news of the day, but just only 5-10 minutes. Most of the evening news was about one topic, only one environmental topic with problem and solutions. So I think this is something interesting to explore. And what is interesting too with this example is that the broadcast, this broadcast was also accompanied by online articles, social video, radio coverage. It was, something like they added. It was not only the air program, there were all these things online. So you see many examples. Another one. Let's go to France a little bit. At France 3 Limoges. France 3 Limoges is a local region, Limoges in the center of France. And the journalist created a 30-minute weekly program called Solutions d'ici, meaning solutions from homegrown solutions. It's very focused on environmental, and I think it's true that environmental is a very good topic to go on solution when talk about solution. Short, practical, local stories like greener hospitals, sustainable agriculture, everyday adaptation. And a journalist with the anchor, François Clapeau, told me something very interesting. He told me, since I do this program on solution journalism, it restores me a sense of purpose, a sense of direction toward the future, and a sense of meaning, reminding me why I'm doing the job at the first place. And I think many journalists today can relate to that feeling. Why are we doing that job? So that's interesting too, that you share that to me. And the last example I will give you is the one I did, and I really felt the same. When I do some solutions, journalism, it restores me signs of the purpose of why I'm doing this job. And the last example is this one, is the one I did last year. It was a 9-minute solution story, 90 minutes on focus on food and solutions. What do we eat? It was a program exploring only solutions. The problem was 10 minutes to start with, and then it was individual, collective solutions. Honestly, it took us 9 months to my production to convince France Télévisions to do it. The time to deliver a baby. But at the end, we succeed. It was on air last year, and we have a surprise. The surprise was it worked. We had like 800,000 viewers, and France Télévisions was very surprised with that numbers. And we also had a great expectation because after the broadcast, Member of Parliament organized a screening at the National Assembly to discuss the solution we show in this documentary. Also, we had a selection in the festival that organized hundreds of public screenings in school, local council, association, communities. Maybe we have little time to show you the trailer of it. It's only 2 minutes. Sorry, the quality of it is not far from being perfect, but you can have the little subtitles in English. Let's go.
Qu'est-ce qu'on mange? Cette question, nous nous la posons depuis toujours en fait.
Si on regarde aujourd'hui l'empreinte carbone d'un Français, à peu près un quart de ses émissions sont liées à son alimentation.
La question c'est, est-ce qu'on peut émettre moins en se nourrissant et en y trouvant toujours autant de plaisir?
Un peu partout, des hommes et des femmes ont des idées, parfois toutes simples, parfois extraordinaires, pour continuer à nous nourrir en réduisant fortement notre empreinte.
C'est vous qui avez tout planté?
Oui.
C'était quoi? C'est une prairie?
C'était une grande pâture, 2,5 hectares vide. On est à plus de 1000 espèces différentes.
Pourquoi rajouter du sucre? Pourquoi rajouter des œufs? Et pourquoi jeter les bananes? C'est délicieux.
On redécouvre aussi les saisonnalités parce qu'il y a plein de choses qu'on a tendance ou qu'on a appris à cuisiner toute l'année.
6 x 5, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38.
Ce ne sont pas des personnes des beaux quartiers qui viennent servir la soupe à des gens pauvres.
Est-ce que c'est bon?
Oui.
Est-ce que ceux qui pensent que c'est bon peuvent lever la main?
Comme beaucoup de choses, souvent il faut juste connaître. Et du coup, ça c'est le bouche à oreille, ou grâce à une initiative comme ça, ça permet de découvrir les producteurs.
On entend proposer des solutions qui peuvent être finalement au coin de notre rue.
Tu as des collectivités, tu as des associations, tu as des citoyens, tu as des entreprises, des fondations, tu as l'État. Et en fait, si on se rassemble tous, là, on peut bouger les choses.
Here we are, 90 minutes like this. So the reason of the success for me of this documentary was it was very local story, practical story, and replicable story. And it was not only focused on individual behavior, but also on collective solutions. And I think that's also important, not to be only focused on individuals. And people, I think, and that's why I think I received so many emails. Never in my career I received so many emails after the screening of this documentary. People telling me thank you for inspiring me, for sharing so great example that I can maybe implement in my own community. And I think that's, for me, a lesson of this documentary, that yes, maybe people were able to see that solutions possible in their own community. So what can we learn from this? And we'll be almost done. What can we learn is that first we can learn that, yes, solution journalism can be really useful in newsroom because it can build audience trust. It can reduce fatigue, negativity fatigue. It can increase community engagement. It can differentiate regional media from national. It can create stronger local conversation. It can encourage newsroom innovation and reconnect journalists themselves with a sense of purpose. So that's what I think that, and I'm almost done, don't worry about that it can work for regional media. Because I think regional media as a local and a unique value. Regional media know the people, know places, what community feel and hope. So this is exactly Malene from SVT told me. Journalists know the territory, they know people, we understand local realities. So because of that, the audience often relate more easily to solution stories, especially those stories who are grounded in real people and everyday experiences. So the good news is, solution journalism, local journalism, is uniquely positioned because solution story, every problem can be a solution story. Every topic can be a solution story. And regional broadcaster, you have the opportunity to do that in daily news, in seasonal reporting, in local experiments. You can follow up stories. So there are many opportunities here also to create new formats, social video, of course, typical television reports, but explain an Instagram community conversation. And that's, especially for the youngest, very interesting. My conclusion will be, yes, maybe it means that we need a little bit to change the way we do the job, meaning moving from breaking news to bridging news. Because breaking is what we do. But journalists can do something else. Maybe it can build bridges between people, between problem and possible responses. As Nina Facio from the Solution Journalism Network told me, journalism should be a profession of care, a profession of connection. It's urgent that we work collectively to produce and consume this bridging news. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sophie. Really inspiring. I think we have time for one question, if there is.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, bring it on. We do have time.
And I'm here
for one.
until tomorrow, so we'll have time to connect and share.
That's also
with
fine.
great pleasure.
Oh, there's one. Yeah.
Could that solution journalism put in sleep the audience, perhaps even the media itself, therefore reducing the watchdog function? Note for me, it's interesting you use this watchdog function. I think we need to have both feet, in fact. It's feet on a watchdog. So we are watchdog, and me, as I'm doing my job right now, I do investigation and solutions, and we can be also watch guide. I think for me, this interesting thing is that we can be okay talking about the problem, but still talking about the solution. We need both, in fact. So it doesn't reduce anything. It doesn't erase the problem. So I think what we see when solution journalism is produced is that it is more trust, people watching, people are interesting, but in fact they're interesting in both. So we need to keep our work as it is, but also maybe complete to be watch dog and guide dog, maybe. That's the idea.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Sophie.